So Garrett, I would like to think me as a foreign friend of yourself interested in investing and doing business in Mongolia, and I'm seeking your advice and expertise related to doing business in Mongolia based on your background and everything. But I would like to start a bit of your personal background. So
Sure.
you first came to Mongolia in 1998, stayed here for a couple of years, and then they came back to the States, started your own life, family. When was that? Met your wife?
I was here from 98 to 2000, and then I returned to the States, finished up my degree, and while I was still a college student, I met my wife in the States. She's a Mongolian who was studying in the United States. And we, of course, started a life there in the States before 2011, when we were contacted by the company I work for now, Wagner Asia. And so that started a journey of us coming back here to Mongolia.
Right. So you decided to come back to Mongolia after 12 years, right? Since your first time in Mongolia. I wonder what were the main reasons that prompted you to come back. Was it something attractive package, maybe something like attractive package Wagner Asia Group offered you, or was that more of the growth potentials of the country that you could foresee at that time?
I would say the main motivation for me coming back was mostly emotional. Okay. Because when I was first here in Mongolia, I gained an affinity and affection for all things and everything Mongolian, particularly the people. I loved the culture here, I loved the language, I loved the fact that it was still developing, still emerging, whereas my home in the United States and in a lot of the Western developed world, I'm from Salt Lake City, Utah, and so I always wanted to come back, but I never had I was still looking for the right opportunity, and it just so happened that with the development of some local resources, namely the uptake in the activity in mining here in Mongolia, primarily beginning with the Turquoise Hill project, and I think dating back to probably 2008. That really was the catalyst that started the whole economic upturn and spurred the development here. And I saw that from afar, and I wanted a part of it, and luckily Wagner Asia was able to find me and introduce me to their operations here, which now I've been here with the company for 6 years, in Mongolia for 5 years now. So
I see. Okay, well, I'm glad you came back, but unfortunately, in one of your interviews, you mentioned that the timing of your return was not perfect, maybe, or was not the best time, because 2012, when you came to Mongolia, was kind of the onset of economic turmoil. We're still a bit going through at the moment. But your company, Wagner Asia Group, and also Wagner Asia Automotive, managed to not only survive, but maybe in some ways even thrive, especially during the couple of years being official distributor of official Jaguar and Land Rover Automotive, right, etc. So could you share maybe 3 main business strategies that you think your group took to survive in this harsh economic time?
Sure. You're right. My timing was bad in that I went. My arrival in Mongolia was counter to the strategy of buying low and selling high. I came in right at the peak, or right after the peak, I guess you could say. And so since then, the past 4 or 5 years, of course, have been economically a struggle. And we have had to downsize, and our revenues have taken a hit during that time. And it's been a struggle to maintain profitability. However, like you mentioned, we have done things within our own company to still enable us to stay strong and still be a major market player here in Mongolia. Some of those things I could name specifically are, first of all, we've we have strengthened the core values or reinforced those core values amongst our employees. In the Wagner Asia Group, we now have 450 employees. That's down from our peak, but still, our peak was about 1,100 back in 2012.
Okay.
So down rather significantly, over 60% reduction. But we still have a commitment to those 450 employees,
Right.
99% of whom are Mongolians, who are locals, because the companies that we represent, Ford, Jaguar Land Rover on my side of the business, and also Caterpillar on our group side of the business, they are major world brands that have world standards and a reputation to protect. And so our skills have to match that and have to meet their standards. So we do have to spend quite a bit on training and development, which we're glad to do. It provides us competitive advantage in a market that doesn't have a long history of that kind of technical skills among the workforce. So retaining those employees is of course important to us. But how do you do that when you can't give somebody the raise that they've deserved? We've focused instead a lot on creating a much more welcoming and pleasing environment for them to work in. One that's not hostile.
Speaking of young employment or young employees in Mongolia, how would you in general define the Mongolian workforce? What do they excel at? What do you think they should work more on improving to meet the international standards, etc.?
Firstly, the Mongolian workforce is relatively young, but I have seen across Mongolia a great deal of age discrimination, where it's a question on your job application. You have to put your birth date, whereas where I come from, that's illegal. And I've seen job advertisements saying, we are looking for somebody between these ages, between...
Not only age, but also maybe sometimes even height.
Oh yeah, I mean, you have to put your photo and show you how pretty you are and stuff like that, where, some cultures I understand that's totally acceptable. If somebody could come in and find a way to tap into that and be able to utilize that segment of the market, I think it would be a great opportunity because you're using a part of the market they're still skilled, they're very knowledgeable, experienced, and plus it's part of a good corporate social responsibility to diversify your workforce and to give opportunities to anybody regardless of age or gender or whatnot.
This program is brought to you by...
So since you took your job or position as a managing director of Wagner Asia Automotive less than a year ago, right?
A little over a year ago.
Over a year ago.
Sure.
Oh. So that was when?
November of 2015.
Okay, November of 2015. Which part of the business did you have to work more on? Was it more to do with the people, the process, or more to do with the profit making?
My focus has been the past year on a few areas, one of which has been restoring our employee satisfaction. Because economic times were challenging and we had gone through some rough years, our morale was down. I think our teamwork, our ability to work as a team had suffered a little bit, and so my first responsibility was to them. Now and always they've been my family, my extended family, and as an employer we need to take care of them. So we've taken steps to try and improve that, and we measure that by doing an annual survey amongst our employees. And the managers, the executive group ourselves, we do a 360-degree survey, have our employees rate us, and we're held accountable because that's...
How do you ensure?
Yes, it's anonymous,
Okay.
executed by our HR department, partnered with a third-party survey provider, because we want to know, and we're held accountable. It's part of my remuneration structure, and so if I don't treat my employees well, they'll report back, and in turn, my performance will be valued or accordingly if I don't uphold my responsibility to them.
What else did you have to?
We also had to, we had incurred significant accounts receivables. We had been too loose on our credit terms. With the contracting economy, cash flow, the money supply certainly has taken a hit. And so the liquidity of our customers, and of course, a lot of our customers are businesses, suffered, and so our collections have been a struggle. We've now got that into what we think is under control, and have put policies in place to try and control that going forward. It does mean sometimes tighter credit terms for some people, or credit might not be available to some of our customers, whereas it previously was. That can oftentimes hurt your top line, but it makes your bottom line a little stronger.
Which percentage of your revenue is coming from your business clients, whereas the passenger or the individual clients?
Exactly, I'd have to look at the numbers, but approximately you're probably going to be in the 50% range.
Okay. So
there are
50-50.
There are quite a few fleet customers that we have, because we have the Ford line. On the Range Rover line, those are more individuals. You're not buying a fleet of 10 Range Rovers most typically, and so. But on the Ford side, it is more of a utility vehicle, a work vehicle, and particularly in the mining, construction, agriculture sectors, which of course are strong in Mongolia. And so we do have quite a few business-to-business transactions.
This program is brought to you by.
Interestingly, in one of your company pages, I found, well, interestingly, as a foreigner, I found that there was a warning to the customers regarding some forged or counterfeit service providers offering same kind of services like you for lower charges. I definitely see it as a potential challenge of doing business in Mongolia. What are the challenges, different challenges do you face when you are in the automotive business? Not only automotive, actually, international trade-related business in Mongolia.
Well, like you mentioned, the competition is fierce, even in Mongolia, where you are geographically so isolated, and so you would think the importation of competitive products and services, unless it was through an established company, would be difficult. But Mongolia has had 26 plus years of open market economy experience, and in that time people have come in and filled the roles. And so for example, in our business, automotive service, repair, we pride ourselves in being an official authorized dealer, and so we can only sell parts that are factory direct, that are authentic, that come with a warranty. But of course, Mongolia, being in such close proximity to China, is so susceptible to those. I don't want to call them knockoffs, because some of them are branded separately, so you would never confuse them with the originals. But of course, they come at a fraction of the price. Yeah. Our stance is obviously we value and push factory original quality, and we back that with guarantees. But sometimes economics comes into play. There can be other challenges as well related to competition, especially fair competition. But despite the challenges, relatively speaking, our stance is that Mongolia is relatively stable in that regard. There are laws in place that protect intellectual property, that protect our rights as importers. And so we try and do what we can to stay in good graces with all the government entities that we deal with, whether it be the customs or related to licensing or permitting, because we're here for the long term, and we do want to do business right. But we know people cut corners. There's certainly rampant corruption, which could give one of our competitors an unfair advantage. We just have to live with that and accept that as a reality, and try and push on despite the handicap of not having the advantage of a bribed government official in whatever regard. So,
what is your how would I say, tactic or strategy in going around that problem at the government or the public sector?
For us, in our company, we're a family-owned company. The Wagner name is a family name, and we have to protect that and respect that he's a man of the Wagner family. They're a family of principles, morals, values, and they would never want their name associated with illegal or even unethical business practice. Might not even be illegal. And so that's a responsibility we have. Also, we are here for the long term. We've been here 20 plus years, and we want to be here for 20 more. And
or even more.
Yeah, we want to preserve that reputation. And so it is important for when our paperwork comes across the desk of a decision maker, they see Wagner Asia and they know, oh, I'm not going to be able to ask for any sort of commission or any sort of money under the table on this because Wagner Asia won't pay. That might put us at the end of the line, that might cause us a few delays, but we're willing to accept those in exchange for respect, in exchange for trust.
And you've still managed to sustain your role or position as one of the major importer or distributor of heavy machinery and other automotives.
Sure, we're still in the automotive sector. We're still considered a top dealership, although volume-wise, there are other dealerships that do more volume than we do currently. But we're not willing to go after that number one position if it means we have to do backdoor deals or give money under the table. Or take money under the table.
Sure. I'm very glad to hear that there are opportunities for foreign-owned businesses or any business in Mongolia to do well while doing well, right?
It's possible. It's certainly, and Wagner's proven that. If the products and services that you're offering is valued, there will always be a demand for it. Whether or not the person buying it thinks, if it's a procurement officer, if they think they can get a 10% cut, what's in the best interest for their company is to buy the vehicle or buy the equipment that makes the company money, that's reliable, that's profitable for them.
Right.
And so in the end, that does win out a significant amount of time. There are deals that we lose because sometimes personal interests outweigh what's in the best interest for the company or for the government. But.
Right. So earlier, just now actually, you mentioned about being close to China could be disadvantages to some businesses in Mongolia. But on the other hand, there are a lot of foreigners or foreign investors who are looking into Mongolia, looking at Mongolia as a gateway or a springboard to access larger market like China. Would you agree with that? Or
sure, absolutely. There are. Now China certainly has embraced free market economic principles, even though the government may have a little more restrictive stance. Economically speaking, they're open for business, and Mongolia has, in my personal opinion, thankfully embraced that and done business with Mongolia, even though geopolitically speaking, they have been mortal enemies for centuries.
Right.
But Mongolians aren't naive. They know that so much relies on their neighbor to the south, economically speaking, even politically speaking. And so you've seen that with the exports that go so much of the percentage, I believe it's 80+%, 85%, does go to the neighbor to the south. And certainly the materials, the imports that come in, a lot of that does come from China. Some of it decent quality, some of it obviously very poor quality. But it does provide at least a product or service that Mongolians of any economic level can afford. There are huge opportunities on the natural resource side, clearly. That's one of Mongolia's biggest opportunities and sources of wealth now and into the unforeseeable future, because for example, like the copper. I mean, that goes into so many products and services that are manufactured in China. The coal down to the steel mills for producing the steel in China. I mean, there's a symbiotic relationship between Mongolia and China, but it's not exclusive. And Mongolians recognize that, and they are very wise to also seek out other trading partners. And so years back, America was valued as a third neighbor. Now that third neighbor has become several additional countries. Korea has a big influence here. Japan, obviously, the Germans, the Canadians. I mean, it's really become internationalized. It's really become a hot market for a lot of investors from various countries, because there are so many untapped resources or newly developing resources here, whether it be the land, whether it be the resources, the agriculture, the animals, or even the labor force here, albeit small. I believe they're capable. So.
So speaking of future potentials for development with regard to Mongolian economic sectors, in one of your other interviews, you mentioned that you would be interested in running your own business in the long term. Say that would be in Mongolia. Which business sector would you like to go in, or which business sectors do you think have the biggest potentials for the next 5 to 10 years, besides the mineral resources, natural resources?
Sure. For me, I originally, when I envisioned creating jobs in Mongolia, when I envisioned starting up a company here, the first thought that came to my mind was, Mongolia has so few value-added services here in regards to manufacturing. They have a lot of raw materials. You can take, animal husbandry here, and all the leather and meat and the byproducts that can come from the herding culture here. The value-added services to make that accessible or available to an international market, the right standards for meat or leather goods. To me, that seemed like that was the first thought that came to my mind. I have since cooled off a little bit on that, although perhaps it's because of my lack of familiarity with that sector, in part because of the logistical challenges. Mongolian infrastructure still needs to be developed, although it is. They're building more roads, and certainly, hopefully, we have additional railroad capability soon. That would enable access of Mongolian goods, products to external markets. But as recent as just a couple weeks ago, as a specific example, I met up with some guys who are running an animation studio, and they do world-class animation, graphics, special effects. They make full-length animated. Yes, they're Mongolians.
Great.
And it's really good quality, and that is a product, a service that can be exported without any barriers. You don't have to have access to an ocean port. You don't have to have railroad or commuter access. You can be anywhere, because obviously this information is transferred over the internet, and they could be subcontracted out to a Hollywood production company to do special effects for the next James Bond movie or whatever. You know what I mean?
Especially in this area of
Yeah.
technology and
Whereas
internet.
the Mongolians have the skills, the intellectual, the capacity here is very great. But the cost of labor is relatively cheap. So you can get the best of both worlds. And technology is high here. I mean, the skill in terms of the Mongolians' ability to utilize and to learn the technology, like something as high-tech as 2D and 3D animation. I can see services like that are more driven by their intellectual skills and more so than actually exporting raw goods. They're exporting products and services, but it doesn't, not products and services that requires logistics, transportation, and that got me excited.
Other factors that are beyond the business people's
Sure.
capacity.
I would love to see Mongolia become a hub for filmmaking, for animation, for
content export.
yeah. I mean that because Mongolia does have such a unique landscape. Being able to come film, make movies in places where are completely remote. There's not even a sign of man. There's no fences. There's no roads. You know that kind of landscape is unique to Mongolia. So hopefully they can find a way to utilize that in more ways than just travel and tourism like they have. You know, maybe they can become the next Bollywood of Central Asia.
Or Mollywood, right?
Or Mollywood, yeah.
This program is brought to you by
Recent economic downturn in Mongolia turned Mongolia from the land of land cruisers to the capital of price. But you and Wagner Asia Automotive decided to go even more luxurious by becoming the official distributor or the dealer of Jaguar Land Rover last August, right?
Correct.
Could you share some of the insights of the market research that must have prompted you make that decision?
It was mainly driven by our partner, Jaguar Land Rover. Jaguar Land Rover is one company now and has been for several years. And they've created that dual branding product offering because they're two separate classifications. Our Land Rover Range Rover vehicles are well known for their four-wheel drive, their off-roading, but they're still luxurious and very high-end SUVs. Whereas the Jaguar, again, it's another English brand, it's another brand manufactured in the UK, but they are primarily sedans and sports cars. And so the two complement each other. You can have in one family both a Range Rover and Jaguar without cannibalizing your sales internally. The demand for luxury vehicles is still relatively high as a percentage of population here. Mongolians appreciate quality. They, as much as they appreciate quality, they also appreciate style and looking good and
Very much.
Using vehicles as a way to express yourself and show other people your status, your wealth, your status in the community. And what a better way to do it than in a Jaguar or a Range Rover, where yes, it's comfortable and
it's also expensive. So
sure, it's not. They're not on the cheap end of transportation, but we believe that we're representing a quality brand in the Jaguar Land Rover line of products, and it's a good time to invest in that right now. You want to buy low, sell high. And so right now we think the economy has bottomed out and there's only blue sky up ahead. And we will establish that brand here in 2017. By 2018 and beyond, when we do foresee the economy picking up even stronger, we'll already have established the Jaguar brand as a known entity, as a known brand in Mongolia, and hopefully be able to capitalize that in the next 5 to 10 years.
You also chair the Auto and Machinery Committee of AmCham Mongolia. Can you share some of the pressing issues you're working on to tackle through the committee?
Sure. As part of the American Chamber of Commerce, we of course meet regularly with other business entities who are members to discuss challenges, things that we're facing that perhaps if we unite we can overcome. And a few of the issues we've taken up as special cases do relate to the automotive sector. Specifically, we've petitioned the Ministry of Development of Roads and Transportation, I believe it was as short as a month or two ago, to address key issues such as the prevalence of right-hand drive vehicles when left-hand drive is currently legal in Mongolia. Another issue that we have tried to address as the AmCham, specifically as the Automotive and Machinery Committee within the AmCham, is the importation of very old vehicles that are 10 years and older. The majority of vehicles coming in, vast majority, are aged vehicles 10 years and older. And that creates huge problems, not only on the emissions, but vehicles that are unreliable can now break down, can now, of course, might have safety defects or issues that when they're not fixed. So we've tried to address some of those issues by petitioning to the government, and they've heard our grievances, and we've seen reports in the media recently of them addressing that for the 2017
Congratulations
budget.
for that.
Yeah,
That's
thanks.
a great news. Okay, Garrett, thanks a lot for very insightful discussion, and all the best in your future endeavors.
Absolutely. Well, thanks
Hope
for having
to see
me.
you again.
Appreciate it. Thanks.